Hello everyone, and welcome to video 42, our introduction to the endocrine system. Starting with this video, and for the rest of the videos that we have for the nervous system, we actually really tend to get away from the nervous system, even though there's a lot of crossover and a lot of similarities in between the nervous system and the endocrine system. It's just that with the endocrine system, we're going to be focusing a lot more on the effectors and the hormones that are going to be involved, oftentimes because the nervous system is sensing something and telling the endocrine system to do something about it. So, like I just said there, they perform very similar functions. The nervous system, however, is more so focused on the short and rapid responses, things like your reflexes, where in the knee-jerk reflex, you stretch that Golgi tendon in your patellar ligament, and your nervous system responds by contracting the quadriceps muscle, and you kick. That's a very short and rapid response. Endocrine systems are much slower, but have much more lasting responses. There's going to be lots of glands and hormones that are going to be involved in the endocrine system. We'll take a look at some of the hormones and the glands that secrete them that are the important ones, at least for us to know as we go through here. But do want to talk about hormones in general. Hormones are going to be fall into a couple of different categories. They can be a protein or a lipid, but their job is to maintain homeostasis. So this is where we start getting into the positive and negative feedbacks. In the endocrine system, you have glands, but glands can be either exocrine or endocrine. Exo meaning outside, so these are going to be glands that secrete products into a duct, and then that duct carries the hormone to whatever the target is. That's not going to be part of the endocrine system, because the endocrine system secretes the hormones directly into the fluid they have around them. Generally, that's going to be the bloodstream. So they're going to put the hormone directly into the bloodstream. That bloodstream is then going to be carrying that hormone around to whatever receptors that are needing that gland or needing that hormone, and then we're going to get the response that we need. We call the final destination, if you will, of those hormones the target organ cells. They're going to have very specific receptors on their surface, on their cell membrane, to be able to pick up the specific hormones that are necessary to make sure that the correct cells end up receiving that hormone. Two categories of hormones. We talked about this on the previous slide. They can be proteins or they can be lipids, and we will talk about the difference between these two. Protein hormones are going to be made of proteins, so it's things. They can be proteins if they're really, really long chains to make a hormone. They can be peptides if they're really, really short proteins, or they can even be amines, which are basically your amino acids plus a little bit. Really not a whole lot for a very complex hormone. But what they do is they are going to bind to the surface of a cell, and then you're going to get this cascade of messengers, basically a whole bunch of middlemen in between that hormone binding to the surface of the cell to finally getting to the DNA, and then telling that DNA, hey, we need this gene to be transcribed so that we can get this product made, because we need that whatever product it is now. Examples of this: calcitonin, follicle stimulating hormone, human growth hormone, are all protein hormones. These are going to be fairly longer lasting. They do take a little bit, just because you have all those middlemen, those second messengers, if you will, relaying those messages till they finally get to the nucleus and to the DNA and to the right gene in that DNA. Lipid hormones are going to be made of fats. That's what lipids mean. Usually going to be things like the steroids. So you're going to see these 6 carbon rings all attached to a 5 carbon ring. I'll have a picture here in a little bit from a chemical standpoint what they will look like. But lipid hormones are really, really effective because they're able to pass through the cell membrane. They're hydrophobic, just like the hydrophobic tails that you have on that phospholipid bilayer. And so they pass through the cell membrane and are able to get directly to the DNA to begin transcription of whatever final product is needed by the body and from that cell. So you can see some of the example steroids you have here: cortisol, corticosterone, aldosterone, testosterone, progesterone, beta estradiol. All of these are different kinds of steroids. I know we like to talk about steroids in kind of a broad overview as just things that make people strong, but it is actually a class of hormones that are very, very important for the body. Here you can see some hormones. We got the amine, peptide, and protein hormones. So that's just breaking up the protein hormones into their individual bits. Norepinephrine is basically adrenaline. You want to think about it like that. It's noradrenaline would be how we would probably call it. But you can see a very, very short amine group, got that nitrogen, which makes it an amine there, attached to a very short molecule to be able to make that hormone. Peptide hormone, a very, very short protein. You can see that shape. The glycine, leucine, proline, all the way going around there. You can basically, probably from this chain, we could actually probably figure out what the DNA sequence is, if you remember transcription and translation from biology. But this is a molecule of oxytocin, which is really important, and we will go over more during the reproductive system. Protein hormone, these here are all, this is a massive protein, and you have your, I'm drawing a blank, the swirls, and then you have your pleated sheets also in here. This is a massive hormone, this human growth hormone, very, very important, and is made of a very long chain, whereas peptide hormones are a very short chain of amino acids. Down here you can see a picture of testosterone and progesterone, those 3 6-carbon chains bonded to a 5-carbon chain, and the differences between those two, but those are lipid hormones. So in talking about hormones, we do need to talk about feedback mechanisms. I know we've briefly covered them during the skeletal system when we talked about calcitonin and osteoblasts and osteoclasts and all of that. But you may remember negative feedback is when the body is outside of homeostasis and it's going to return the body back to homeostasis. So you're too warm, you sweat, that cools you off, that returns you back to your normal body temperature. Or you're too cold, you shiver, that warms you up and returns you back to your normal body temperature. Those are examples of negative feedback. Positive feedback, on the other hand, is going to push you further away from homeostasis when you are already outside of homeostasis. So this is going to be something like a fever where you're warm and your body makes you warmer and warmer and warmer until it finally is able to kill whatever it is you're infected with. Then negative feedback sets in and starts returning you back to homeostasis. You can see here another example of some feedback loops, both negative and positive here, with births and deaths, controlling population. Births increase population, so that's going to be pushing it further away, possibly if this population is at a stable rate there. Deaths decreasing it, but they're all controlling one another. Just remember negative, you're going back to normal. Positive, you're being pushed further away from normal. So that is a brief overview of the endocrine system. We're going to start getting into groups and classes of the glands and the hormones that are involved throughout the human body. Just kind of as a general overview, we talk about many of them during our units, especially like I said with calcitonin, osteoblasts, osteoclasts. During the digestive system, we'll especially look at things like insulin and glucagon and hormones related to that. But this endocrine system is generally best understood when paired with the nervous system, and so that's kind of why we start covering some of these things now.